The big problem with the 3080s and 3000 series in general, usually starting around the 3070 Ti where you get GDDR6X memory, is of course the memory temperatures. It gets significantly worse on the 3090 and the 3090 Ti due to memory modules being on the back of the PCB where you don't have active cooling. That being said, that's not as much of a concern or a concern at all for the 3080. However, they have been running hot, but ASUS introduces now a Noctua overclock edition for the RTX 3080, and the reports from WCCF Tech are looking exceptionally good for not only acoustics, but of course cooling as well. And this is going to be a big deal, I think, if you are looking at getting more efficient, right? It's going to come down to the price point and the entry point, but ASUS has launched its second graphics card design in collaboration with Noctua, the 3080 Noctua edition. Now, the 3070, to be fair, on the tough models, and even the 3080 is not that bad, but you'll see the difference here is probably worth it, especially as summer starts approaching. Following the resounding success of the 3070 Noctua edition, the Noctua edition of ASUS GeForce RTX 3080 is the second graphics card to feature Noctua fans and a heatsink that has been co-engineered by Noctua. By switching from the stock 3 92mm fans to two of the Noctua's award-winning NFA 12x25 120mm units, and by tailoring the heatsink to make the most out of the fan's superior aerodynamic performance, thermals and acoustics of ASUS's original tough gaming GeForce RTX 3080 could be improved significantly for the Noctua edition, making it the quietest card in its class. And then we have some pictures of it, and oh my goodness, I think it's beautiful. Obviously, I liked the 3080 model as well personally, so let me know what you guys think of the aesthetics. Now, there's always been the complaint, of course, of the RTX, or not the RTX, the Noctua fans in their ugly colors. But for me personally, I've always thought like that they kind of look cool, and having something different is nice. But in theory, you could probably go ahead and splice in some of their black version models as far as colors too, if you preferred that. I kind of wish the entire card was just brown though. That would be kind of neat as well. I am also going ahead and updating some stuff here. Give me a sec. I forgot to update Rocket Chat for, of course, the live stream. So I wanted to make sure I got that in. But there's a closer look, as you can see. What's interesting is that the cooler design is pretty basic, and we'll get into that here in just a second. There's the back plate. It looks like they have these exposed here. It's probably going to help some cooling on the back side. You got your two 8-pins up here, and there's a side shot. Like I said, the cooler is very basic, and you'll see that that's kind of the way that it functions actually seems to be a better solution than having separate memory cooling. So we'll talk about that too. Like the ASUS RTX 3070 Noctua Edition card, the new GeForce RTX 3080 models uses Noctua's award-winning state-of-the-art fans, obviously, and tailored heatsink that was custom designed to make the best use of the fan's superior airflow and static pressure characteristics. Compared to the ASUS Tough Gaming GeForce RTX 3080, the Noctua Edition runs significantly quieter while at the same time achieving lower GPU and memory VRAM temperatures. As you can see here, here's the noise reduction results down to 16 decibels from 19 on the low fan speed, on the maximum fan speed down to 33.8 decibels from 42.4 decibels on the essentially the tough version. At typical auto fan speeds, the Noctua Edition runs 4.5 decibels quieter while achieving 3 degrees Celsius lower on the GPU temperatures. And here's what's huge for the miners: 14 degrees Celsius lower VRAM temperatures. When running the fan at their maximum speed, like it might be required in worst case situations, such as when fully stressing the card in poorly ventilated cases or with very high ambient temperatures, the reduction in noise level is 8.6 decibels, and the memory still runs 12 degrees cooler. At medium fan speeds, the Noctua edition improves both GPU and VRAM temperatures while running more than 4 decibels quieter. And you can see here, you're down negative 14 decibels on the VRAM in Celsius, right? I was hoping that they had actual numbers, but I don't see any here. And then they have, obviously it's running quieter, and that does mean that the fans are spinning lower. The picture at low fan speed is similar, and you get 2.3 decibels quieter. And then here's the design. I think it's down here. Obviously the heatsink design on the original, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As far as the copper pipes, it does look a little bit thinner. And then you got the 6 on the Noctua, and then the cooler's a little bit thicker, right? The reduced noise level go hand in hand with lower GPU temperatures, as well as substantial reductions in memory temperatures of up to 22°C. The reduction in memory temperatures was made possible by changing the heatsink design from a layout with separate heat sinks on the VRAM to one that uses a bigger copper base. And that's going to be really the key here. If we look at the ASUS TUF model, you don't have a copper base on essentially the memory heat sinks. What you have, because I've torn these apart a couple times, is that you have essentially a kind of the aluminum. You don't have the copper. So I think that's a big part of it, because otherwise you're still covering all of the space on a single heat sink there. And see, you can see here's the original design. In red are the separate memory heat sinks. And then over here, you see they kind of carried this green part out. So the block, the copper, goes even further. I just think it's a much simpler design, albeit obviously a little bit thicker on the cooler itself. But I think this is really one that I would be interested in if I was building a rig purely to go ahead and obviously have lower temperatures for a mining rig. Like the GeForce RTX 3070 Noctua edition, the 3080 model features a dual BIOS that enables customers to switch between a performance profile that provides the lowest GPU temperatures and a quiet profile that allows a slightly higher temperatures in order to achieve the best possible acoustics. Catering to the demands of Noctua's customers, the quiet profile is set as the default. So basically, if you were to pick one of these up, change the profile to the performance one so that you get those higher fan speeds, because in a mining environment, that shouldn't be as big of a deal, especially since this will still probably be the quietest card in your rigs. For enthusiast users, we want to take things one step further. The included ASUS GPU Tweak 2 software, as well as the upcoming beta version of GPU Tweak 3, provide extra possibilities such as setting custom fan curves or undervolting. That's awesome. Reducing the thermal output of the card, undervolting, can make it possible to let the card run even quieter. For example, reducing the GPU voltage by around 100 millivolts can drop the GPU temperatures by several degrees and thereby widen the thermal margin. And it's going to also be important to acknowledge something else. Because you are sharing the heatsink with the core, underclocking the core should also, in theory, help reduce the memory temperatures even further compared to the older designs or different designs. So that'd be one to test as well. That would be really interesting. The GeForce RTX 3080 Noctua edition features a semi-passive fan control setup that can switch the fans off completely wherever the GPU temperature goes below 50 degrees Celsius. This means that in typical configurations with low to moderate ambient temperatures and well-ventilated cases, the card can run entirely fanless at lower GPU loads, such as during office productivity tasks, web browsing, or even light gaming. Even at high GPU loads, such as during gaming or benchmarking or mining cryptocurrency, the fan speeds will stay extremely low as long as the ambient temperature inside the case isn't excessive. Yeah, in my farm, it'd be excessive, right? So, in summary, the ASUS GeForce RTX 3080 Noctua Edition is the ideal card for quiet cooling enthusiasts who demand serious GPU performance without sacrificing the quietness of operation. And once again, I'll harp on that up to 22 degrees Celsius drop in VRAM temperatures, which is fantastic, right? I think that is really what you're looking at, because if you can keep those memory temperatures low without having to do like copper modding, which essentially this takes away the need for copper plate modding because you are cooling it with a copper plate right from the factory. So you're not having to spend the money on the copper plates. You can pretty much expect the results of RTX 3080s with copper mods on this particular GPU. You could factor that into the price. And I think that that's just obviously to keep warranties in place, to keep RMA in place. Also, 120 millimeter Noctua fans are typically going to be easier to replace and last way longer. That's awesome, right? Like, instead of having to find exact fan replacements that get harder and harder as the cards go out of production, as opposed to strapping something onto the old kind of heatsink, as opposed to having to swap to water blocks or immersion. From the miner's perspective, picking up these 3070s and these 3080s with Noctua 120 millimeter standard fans means probably worst case, and I don't know exactly the plug type for these fans, but you could buy potentially 120 millimeter fans, replace them, and just splice those in, right? Which is going to make fan replacement just basically not necessarily easier, because the direct replacement would be a little bit easier, but more likely, right? Like, at some point, a lot of the other fans that you buy replacements for, one, they don't last as long because they're smaller and they spin way faster. And two, they're harder to find, right? So that's kind of the whole thought behind it. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.